Welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics. I want to jump right in the show this week because we are joined by one of the busiest women in the state of Missouri, State Senator Jamilah Nasheed. You are burning up I-70 because you're also running for president of the Board of Aldermen in the city of St. Louis. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
Okay, you're a state senator. President of the Board of Aldermen is a huge job. People from maybe outstate Missouri won't realize how important it is to the process in the city of St. Louis. Tell us what that job is and why you're running for it.
Well, the job holds two different positions, okay? It's a very, very powerful position to have here in the city of St. Louis. And the reason I say that is simply because the Board of Aldermen president sits on the Board of E&A, that's estimate and apportionment, controls all of the contracts and the budget here in the city of St. Louis. And you also have the president of the Board of Aldermen that oversees the legislative body. The legislative body is the Board of Aldermen. What they do is they create legislation just like we do on the state level. And the Board of Aldermen president appoints committees, sends bills to committees, and oversees the chamber on Fridays.
Would it be akin to somewhat like the Speaker of the House or the President
Absolutely.
of the Senate?
Absolutely, that's correct.
So why are you running for this job?
I'm running, Scott, simply because this city can do better, and it hasn't been working for everyone. We have some great things happening in this city. When you look at Akil, Cortex, all the great development happen in the central corridors. But then when you go north of Delmar, all you see is vacant and abandoned building, block after block, and children walking up and down the streets, and that's all they see is a sense of hopelessness. We have to make sure that this city, the city of St. Louis, the city that we love, is working for everyone, no matter what neighborhood they're in. We need to make sure that it's equitable across neighborhoods, and that hasn't happened under the leadership of Louis Reed.
You hear a lot of people talk about schools, you hear a lot of people talk about crime, poverty. Does it all not come back to people that are in poverty? If you can't make ends meet, you get in desperate situations and you make decisions that people would normally make, and there's a downward spiral.
That's right.
What do you do about that?
Well, you know what? I'm a firm believer that, you know, in order to reduce poverty, you have to do two things: jobs and education. We have an educational system that's practically passing children on from the kindergarten to the 12th grade not knowing how to read on a third grade level. They're below proficiency in the areas of math and science, and you know and I know they have to be proficient in those two areas because technology is what's driving our economy these days. The bubble burst with the economic engine pertaining to the industrial. It burst a long time ago. And so what we now have to do is get our children educated in the areas of math and science, and it's not happening.
So the campaign looks like it's going well. You got a big endorsement from the city treasurer, Shar Jones, I saw.
Yes,
got to be a big boost to the campaign.
Great. It was great. It was fantastic.
So as a couple issues that have came up that people have talked about in Jeff City and statewide as well as St. Louis, the airport privatization.
Sure.
It's an innovative idea to maybe try to privatize the city of St. Louis. Everybody in the state's flown out of it at least once in their life. Yeah. What would privatization do, and why would it be supported, and what's the other case? Well,
let me say this here. We don't know what it looks like. Yep. Okay, so you cannot elaborate on what you don't know.
Do you think some people just discredit it because of the group that's proposed the idea? And they have never even read the proposal?
Well, I think that, you know, anything Rex touches in the city of St. Louis, it becomes questionable. True. And it's unfortunate, but it happens that way because people remember that Rex wanted to get rid of the earnings tax. And they think that the earnings tax is associated with why they're trying to privatize the airport. Many people believe that. But my thing here, my biggest thing is, if this is a great idea and you can sell it to the people, go sell it to the people and give them the right to decide. Give them the right to vote.
Full disclosure, Mr. Rex Sakefield owns the production company we use. But I think you could take his ideas. Rational person could disagree with his ideas or agree with them. It'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. When do you think people might have an actual plan they can start to look at?
Well, I don't know. You know, I haven't spoken with anyone that's working on the plan. No one, called or said anything to me, so I don't know when it's going to happen.
Another issue that's touched the state Senate even is the city-county, a statewide vote on the merger. It would be obviously a revolutionary, interesting idea, but it looks to me like the type of thing that you might see some support outstate, but inside the city, and especially the county, you might see some opposition. Puts city leaders in an interesting position.
Yeah, well, you know, Section 30, I think it's Article 6, basically lays out how you can consolidate the city and the county, okay? It's already in the Constitution. However, what we need to do is not allow for outstate to dictate to the city and the county if or when we should consolidate.
Boy, could you imagine if you all in the city tried to do that to Butler County? You tried to merge Butler and Stoddard County. Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
But it is an interesting thing. And I mean, you talk about the city and how it's struggling. You talk about parts of it that are depressed economically, educational, otherwise. It may be a time for bold solutions, right? It may be a time to say that things aren't trying. Maybe this is the right one, maybe it's not. But I almost think you credit the people that are trying to do the bold things.
Well, I think that, like you said, right now, we are politically bankrupt to some extent. I mean, we don't have new ideals and new concepts coming from our leaders at the top. And I think right now, we have to begin to look at how we change the image of this city. How do we bring people back into the city that want to live, work, and play? And right now, our image is tainted, and we can do better. We can change it again with bold leadership. We can change the way our image looks. Like I said, we have some great things happening. Again, we have Cortex, we have IKEA, we have the Ballpark Village, we have the new...
You're going to say the Cardinals, right?
The Cardinals?
I love it.
We have the new Arch Grounds. So we have some great things here happening in the city of St. Louis. But again, we have to make sure that it's across neighborhoods.
Well, the truth of the matter is, all of us folks out in the sticks, we love to come to St. Louis because of the culture. Because Richard Calloway type told me, it is the culture, it is the nightlife, it is those things that maybe we wouldn't appreciate if they were in Dexter, if they were in Advance, but draw you to the city because you love them, and I'm first in line in that group.
You hang out in the city a lot, right?
Absolutely. I love the city of St. Louis. It's a special place to me. Maryland and Euclid's a very special place to me and my family. Let me just tell you, before you go though, 6 million Missourians, Mike Parsons, probably about 80% of them, you and him had a little dust up. Where's that at right now?
Well, I'm a firm believer that, you don't always have to fight. You sometimes have to find that middle course. And I've served on the state level for 12 years under the control of the Republican House, Senate, and Governor's Mansion.
And been effective. Harris-Stowe University owes a great debt to you, things you did during those Republican administrations.
Oh, absolutely. So a lot of people, they don't really understand that, it's not, if it's not my way, it's the highway. You cannot legislate like that. And I have been a person that try to find the common cause and the common ground in that middle course and try to get things done. So to answer your question, we're working on it.
I love that answer. State Senator Jamilah Nasheed running for the President of the Board of Aldermen in the City of St. Louis. Thanks for joining us on this week.
Thanks for having me. Absolutely.
We'll be right back with our Opinion Maker panel. But first, I want you to do me a favor and go to showmissouri.com. Show Missouri and AH, like it's supposed to be said, not in the senator's constituents, but the rest of the state. Cole County, the seat of county government did this week. Sam Bushman and a great panel of folks talk about the county seat of the state of Missouri and how it came to be there. Showmissouri.com. We'll be right back after this.
For more than a century, the St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
Looking to get quality insurance at a price you can afford? Now you can, thanks to CFM Insurance. Select from our broad range of farm, home, and rental property coverage. Find an agent right in your local area, as CFM is represented by a network of 200 independent agencies throughout Missouri. For personal and dependable service from a company with a history of insuring the families of Missouri that dates back to 1869, visit WeInsureMissouri.com and find an agent near you today.
Welcome back to This Week in Missouri Politics. We're joined by Representative Tom Hannegan from the city of St. Charles in the St. Louis area. Love downtown. You guys do such a great job with that downtown St. Charles.
Thank you. We're very proud of it. And St. Charles is celebrating their 250-year anniversary this year. So come on down to St. Charles. We've got a lot going on throughout the whole entire year.
Love it. Let's jump in an issue that you filed a series of bills. A lot of them dealing with how you do sex trafficking, criminal justice reform. Tell us about the idea you've come up with to try to raise the awareness of some of the sex trafficking?
Sure. Well, as you know, the governor and the whole legislative body has a really big appetite for, criminal justice reform, everything from prisons and trying not to build more prisons and trying to really think about how we can reinvent the criminal justice system. So I have a couple bills. One thing that I'm trying to do is sex trafficking. That has become a very hot topic for the legislator, a big appetite for that issue. We have had a lot of work on it. We've raised awareness already. Well, the Attorney General's office actually has a video that it's free of charge that the employers can use as a training tool to their employees. So we've identified hot places where sex trafficking occurs, where these employees can be aware, maybe, help save a life, basically.
Sure.
So these places might be like gas stations, hotels, or motels. So I'm encouraging employers to use this free service, it's a free video through the Attorney General's office, to train their employees for signs of sex trafficking, and maybe we'll save a life.
Your Congresswoman and the new Attorney General's Congresswoman, Ann Wagner, has been a real leader on that issue.
Very much so, very much so. She's worked tirelessly on the subject. It is really something that we are focusing on. We have some good legislation coming through on this, and this would just be another piece to raise that awareness and keep the awareness going.
Let's talk about the big issue in Jeff this week was the state budget.
Yes.
Obviously there's a shortfall. There's been a DOR flub up. I know you don't sit on that budget committee that sat there, but I know you talk to the folks that do it. I'm sure they give you a report. It does look like DOR's made some mistakes, but also the Treasury's short, right? Right.
Well, let me just say, first of all, that we have Cody Smith in charge of the budget committee, and I would say, I loved Todd Richardson as a speaker. I can associate Cody with being the characteristics of Todd. So first of all, we're in good hands. So I have full faith in Cody, Representative Cody Smith, to kind of handle this.
That they said, is this a shortfall? And instead of him giving a 2-minute answer, they didn't say, yeah, right now, here's where the books are. We're short.
Right. I mean, he's going to handle it professionally. He's going to ask the hard questions. He already is. He is going to look into it. So if there is a problem, we just have to figure out how to figure it out. And we're doing that. And actually, the Budget Committee has met, and they're full throttle into seeing what went wrong and how to fix it. And one thing that's nice and assuring, too, is that if there are people that are going to have, trouble paying it, if the tax rates, because they didn't declare it right, the Department of Revenue will work with people. They can put you on a payment plan. They will work with you. So
and if the Department of Revenue crosses someone, I guess the whole state knows they should call Robert Ross right now. He's not going to stand for it.
Right, exactly.
You have an idea, though. Speaking of the state budget, the governor's, I think a lot of folks came in today, let's try to pass a road measure. Didn't work. So the governor had, let's try some, we have some desperate problems, let's try a bonding plan. You come up with an idea to raise some revenue for some of the state roads and bridges. It was with rental cars, right?
Right. So everybody's concerned. Nobody wants to pay taxes. Come on,
Sure.
Unfortunately, we have to do this sometimes. Well, so how do you do that with a less impact? And you really if you have to do a tax increase or do something to bring in some money, why not bring it in with people that are not locals, that don't have the burden? So the idea is to charge an extra $1 for rental cars. So people that are, traveling to our state, and $1, nobody will even probably know that it's even there. But I'm not saying that that's secure and it's going to bring in all this money, but every little bit helps. So if we can find these, mechanisms or tools to help alleviate some of this and get our roads and bridges, fixed, I think it's a good thing. So I just suggest that we charge an extra $1 fee for rental cars.
Rob Vescovo, I think people sleep on the fact of how passionate he is and how there's a real steadiness to him. You've got a couple leaders. They're very different in maybe style and composure, but I'm not sure this isn't one of the top leadership teams the state's ever had.
Yes, and like I said earlier, Todd was the best. I enjoyed coming in as a freshman under his leadership, but we are in such good hands. Elijah, he is a rock star. They each have a little different attitudes in how they do it. I think Rob's a little bit more of a full charge kind of go in there, but take no prisoners kind of thing. But everybody's personalities kind of work with each other.
Do you think some people miss the sincerity he has? Usually, sometimes guys that come in hard charging like that, you think, well, is he preening for someone? Is it some kind of donor move? But there's a sincerity to Rob Vescovo that really shines through that I think that you have to watch it almost on a day-to-day basis to really appreciate.
I think Rob would be the first one to say, hey, if you don't think I'm doing a good job, get me out, and stuff. I mean, but he is doing a great job for us. He makes sure that the senators, on the Senate side, our issues get to them, and he really does fight for what we want to accomplish in the House.
Well, Representative Dohrman, thank you for joining us. Come back. We're out of time now. We'll come back and talk about Mona in a couple weeks.
Great. I'd love to. Thank you.
We'll be right back. Our Opinion Maker panel. Mike Colona joins the show after this.
At Ameren, Missouri, we know what light can do. It draws people together and chases monsters away. And if you shine it in the right direction, it will light the path for the next generation, showing them what their tomorrow could look like, and spotlighting the possibilities that lay in front of them. Investing in our community by lighting the way forward. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back to this week in Missouri Politics Opinion Maker panel time. Mike Colona, former representative. Now, you always talked about being a simple country lawyer, and now you're the municipal judge in Holt Summit. Your dreams have come true.
My dreams have come true, gentlemen. I'm so flattered and would like to extend my sincerest gratitude and thanks to the mayor and the city council of the city of Holt Summit, Missouri, for having faith in me to assist them in the dispensing of justice.
And we'll move the infomercial along. Angela Bingaman, Democratic Strategist and Fundraiser, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Hannah Beers, Axiom Strategist, welcome back to this week in Missouri Politics.
Thank you for having me.
And one of the most accomplished legislators. I was so glad you were able to come up today. Thank you very much, Representative Dean Dohrman, Pettis County, for joining us.
Thank you, and glad to be here.
So, you're the perfect person to ask this to because you're not a cheap shot guy. You take things seriously. You're a serious policy guy. There was a huge dust up in the legislature today. The budget, obviously DOR's made some mistakes. The budget's short. Those two things come together. Are people scoring points, or is there substance to some of the complaints that come out of the House Budget Committee this week?
Well, we've heard everything from $100 million to $500 million that we may be short in the budget. I think those do require some serious questions. We've had some of those. The inquiry will continue for a while, but the first thing to do is make sure that we get it right. I hope that there's not too much pain to the average taxpayer, as I understand. Hopefully there will not be. And then we'll get to the bottom of it and move forward.
So even in a Democratic administration, DOR is not a popular department. In a Republican administration, it's just tough sledding. So was the mistakes that they made, how significant were they after they were vetted for a couple hours this week?
Right. Well,
and
again,
time will tell. I guess they're coming back this week, right?
Time will tell, but it's too much of an error, and it needs to be corrected, and we do not need to repeat the scenario in the future.
Mike Colona, can you imagine the poor person if they were Jay Nixon's DOR director and they'd made this mistake? I can't even imagine the rain of fire that would befall them.
No. If they weren't called to a hearing room.
The House hearing room would have been the joyful place. The governor's office would have been the one you'd hated.
We could probably hear the shouts from the second floor. And a patrolman would have been there at the entry room to the second floor.
To protect him, not the governor. To protect the director,
To escort the director out, yes.
Angela Bingaman, there's always going to be, when the budget gets tight, you're going to have these issues. And when you have a problem with a department that's, no one wants to hear from the Department of Revenue. Right. You're going to have these issues. But I think it also comes back to when you cut taxes, you're going to have a shortfall. Who should be surprised by that?
Right. I mean, I think that, I don't know too much about the issue in terms of, what went wrong. And I think, we're going to find out in the next couple weeks. But as a taxpayer, and I think this could be said by any side of the aisle here, it's, well, does this fall on me? Do I have to take care of this problem? Are my taxes going to be raised because we have such a big shortfall? And so I think it impacts everyone in the state of Missouri. And so I really hope that as they go through the proceedings to find out why we have such an error, that they keep in mind who this is actually impacting, and it is the person that pays to the state of Missouri.
Well, and Scott, let me leapfrog in right quick. The representative hit on something that I don't think people are really paying any attention to right now. If this shortfall is as big as folks think it is, what we're hearing from the department is no big deal. When we go out to collect our taxes at tax time, we're going to recoup the losses. Translation, you and I are apparently going to get a big fat tax bill that we were not anticipating. And that's just not right.
Right.
That might be one of the lessons of this week. One of the lessons I learned was maybe you don't cross Robert Ross. He was the one that stood up, and you didn't need a Democrat questioning the Republican administration. Robert Ross nothing was flying past him.
No, I mean, this situation obviously is not the best. I don't know how a mistake like that gets missed for 15 years, is what we're hearing. But thank goodness we've got good people like Representative Cody Smith, Representative Robert Ross, and then Senator Dan Hannegan overseeing this process.
Okay, just to talk politics for a minute, you got Cody Smith is the budget chair. He's very young for that job. He come to it because Scott Fitzpatrick's treasurer. There were some that said the governor picked him for his qualifications, also because he was a very hard budget chairman on the administration, and he made it clear this administration too. It would have been easier for Cody Smith to go in and score points off DOR. I thought it showed some maturity that he ran the meeting and didn't try to be the star of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think Cody, the representative, shows signs of great leadership. I mean, I've heard people compare him to the great Todd Richardson, so we'll see where he goes.
Representative, you have a bill. It's one of those bills that I think right now in our culture, people would run from screaming. You've actually stepped up and addressed something that I think is a mature issue in Title IX. You're trying to reform some of these ways and add some. It may be something that was made to address a problem and a real problem. Maybe the overreach of Title IX is something you're trying to rein in here.
Exactly, and the part of Title IX we're talking about is sexual harassment and assault, up to assault in colleges and universities. And what happened, again, the pendulum may have swung a little too far. There was what's called a Dear Colleague letter in 2011 that went out from the Obama administration and said, look, universities, colleges, start taking this seriously. These allegations must be addressed. Well, we would all agree on that. Problem is, somehow in the process, due process was lost. A student could be called in to an administrative hearing at the school, not really clear what the charges are, could not get any sort of legal counsel, didn't know exactly who was making the charges against them. Well, obviously, they're at a great disadvantage.
Sure.
So House Bill 573 addresses that, says we will put due process back into the process.
Representative Colona, you're an attorney. I've heard from other serious people. These are not people that are trying to make sexual assault or sexual harassment easier on campus. But I think when you have claims that you can't really defend yourself against, it makes people not put more credibility on ones that are serious claims.
Correct. And first off, I want to thank the representative for picking up this really difficult issue.
Sure.
This is something that should transcend your political identification. The representative is right. This part of Title IX is designed to try and address some of the problems that we see on college campuses that have come to light recently. Some folks would consider it a rape culture. Some folks would say that sexual assault is going on rampant on college campuses. Well, let's be real, there's a problem. So the question becomes, how do you handle this problem? Universities have been handling it on their own with some direction from the Department of Education for about a decade. So, I mean, this is, 10, 12 years ago is kind of when it started to come to the forefront. So it's not a judicial proceeding. It's not something that you hear in your state court. It's not something that you hear in a criminal court. It's something you hear on campus. It's basically an administrative procedure. Well, part of the problem is if somebody is accused of committing a sexual assault, and the remedies out there, if you're found guilty, are things like kicking you out of school or requiring you to pay back 4 years of scholarship that you received. That's kind of what we call a taking. And our Missouri Constitution guarantees that if you're going to have a taking from someone, there has to be, that fancy legal word, some type of due process to guarantee that the result that you ended up at.
So in your opinion, as an attorney, as a Democrat, there's a place for some of the provisions of this law?
Oh yeah, and I'll try and short-circuit my educational moment here, but
there are people, there are pro-tort reform House members, there are Republicans that are hearing your voice right now, and it's just taking them back to a dark time.
Listen, if the representative's bill is designed to protect both the victim and the accused, to make sure that there are basic tenets of due process that we all believe in that exist. And let me tell you some of them. One, okay? Please tell me what I'm accused of. Right now they don't have the right for that.
I think there's a provision of fairness there, but Hannah, as a person who isn't that long out of college. I mean, I think it does say if you're accused of something, you should be able to defend yourself, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, you see the outrage culture. I mean, it comes from social media, it comes from college campuses. It's a huge culture of one person is accused of something and then everyone goes after them. And absolutely, I mean, sexual assault and harassment should be taken seriously in our culture, and I feel like sometimes in some sects of it, it's not taken seriously. But at some point, you have to figure out, you have to let due process happen.
And
is that the place where this comes in, Angela?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I agree completely with Hannah in this regard, is that sexual assault is an issue. It's becoming more of the forefront of our culture, but yet, you know, I think that we have to make sure that this is something that's going on, but we live in a country where the accused is innocent until proven guilty, and why doesn't that transcend onto the college campus? I mean, when you're in a college campus, it's a very small kind of minutia of people, and so do you want rampant rumors of, you know, administrative hearing without any rules to say, oh, this person's a rapist, and not know what the evidence is, or, you know, someone who believes that they were sexually assaulted and then their assaulter gets off for whatever reason? You know, I think this puts some basic principles down to, yes, let's address this very serious issue and make sure that it is taken seriously on both sides.
Another serious issue coming up is education reform. Republicans going to do this, right?
We're going to try.
What would education reform look like to a regular Missourian that's not
to a regular
possible?
Missourian, it's a bipartisan issue. You've got Democrats filed a bunch of bills this week. Republicans are behind it. I think sometimes rural folks are less likely to support it because they don't want their schools affected. And basically it comes down to the fact that regardless of where you grow up, you should have access to a great education, regardless of your zip code. In some of our rural areas, we have great schools. The great Aaron Baker, who I get the privilege of working with, is from Atlanta, Missouri, and they are a blue ribbon school. They're a fantastic school. A charter school doesn't need to come in there because they're doing a great job, but in some areas, competition's good. If a school is not providing to students the education it should, there should be options.
Representative, does this pass this year?
I think so.
Yeah. There's always been, to me, a dynamic of suburban legislators dragging some rural legislators who don't want to do it to change schools in St. Louis where they don't want to change. But it's an interesting thing. 82 votes was tough to come by before. Come by this year?
I think so.
Like with a minute left, who won the week?
I think the governor won the week. Every time he gets into the public view, I think his real agenda comes out. And his real agenda is, I'm not a Republican and I'm not a Democrat. I'm a Missourian. I want to see good transportation. I want to see good schools. I want to see economic development. Who can disagree with that? So good for him.
Who won the week?
State Representative Doug Beck, who decided to run for State Senate in District 1. He's an amazing candidate and legislator, and I think that he's going to be a great senator.
And Rich, who won the week?
I'm going to say the Senate Conservative Caucus. I think it was a courageous group of senators who got together. They said, we're not going to hold things up. We're going to be a resource. We want to offer our help to leadership, and I'm excited to see what they do.
Always, my antenna goes up when a senator says, I'm not going to hold things up. Who won the week?
Former Representative Gloria Brown. She passed away from cancer, and she will be memorialized in a highway naming that passed out of the House this week.
I'm going to say Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe. He won the Geyer Award this week at the University of Missouri. You go from Atchison County to Pemmican County, Barton County to Lincoln County. Maybe nobody embodies the state of Missouri more than maybe Mr. Missouri, Governor Mike Kehoe. We'll see you next week on This Week in Missouri Politics.
This Week in Missouri Politics, sponsored by the Missouri Association of Career Fire Protection Districts, Spire, and Sterling Bank.